Okay, so this lesson is area applications. So area applications, really it is all around us. Like it says, the real world uses area applications. I've used it a couple of times, more than a couple of times, this past couple of weeks as we're working on our house, trying to figure out how much tile to buy depending on the size of a room, or trying to figure out how much paint we should buy if we're going to paint a room, things like that. So we need to be able to figure out how large of a space we're working with, and then figure out how much we're going to need of a certain material to cover that space. So the only thing that I see here that we might get a little bit confused with is their formula for area of a square. And I say that because it says S squared. And what that means is sides squared, sides times the two sides times itself. Basically, the sides are going to be the same length. So you're just going to take that number and square it. However, I think it's easiest just to remember that when you're working with a square or a rectangle, this is your formula. It's length times width. That way you don't have to worry about, is it a square and what's that, how do I figure that out again? It's just every single time. If you have a four-sided figure, it's a square or a rectangle, you're going to do length times width. If it's a triangle, because triangles are half of rectangles and squares, you're going to take half of the base times the height. Or you can even say half of the length times the width. It's all going to be the same. But base times height makes it a little bit easier, just that you need to find the height of the triangle. You can't just find width or length. I mean, maybe you can. Whatever word works best for you. I think height is probably the better term to think about. Okay, so let's take a look at these and just see what are we going to do if we're actually using this in the for a practical application, for something that you need to do for your home. Because typically that's what you're looking at to use area. All right. Do you want to purchase a rug for your dining room? The rug should be 6 feet long and 8.5 feet wide. What is the area of the rug? How many square feet do you actually need to cover? Okay, so the area is going to be just like we normally do for any other rectangle. It's length times width. So in this case, it is 6 times 8.5 or 8 5/10. Okay, my handwriting is funky. All right, so 6 times 8 5/10, which is 51. So we're looking for 51 square feet of carpeting. Okay. All right. A farmer is filling in his triangular garden with soil. Okay, that seems kind of strange. However, if you have a space where you're working with sort of a funky area, you just maybe have a little bit of space left and you want to fill it with something, you might use this. Triangles are, probably not so common, but if you're going to be a landscaper or something like that, you may come up with a creative way to make a garden for a client, and this might be one. So you've got a garden that's 12 feet long and 16 feet wide. So what they really should say is 12 feet tall. All right, but it's probably a right triangle. So maybe they're looking at something that looks like this, right? So we're still going to do our same area equals 1/2 of the base times the height. So we have half of, and it doesn't matter if we do 12 times 16 or 16 times 12. So let's take half of 12, which is 6 times 16. So let's see what we can get. Oh, and there goes the computer. I knew it would happen one sooner rather than later. Okay. All right, so we're looking at 96 square feet of soil. Okay. We can also use that to figure out how many plants we might be able to put in there. If each plant needs to be so many inches apart for crowding and things like that. All right, so here, a kitchen table has an area of 21 square feet. If the table is 3 feet wide, how long is it? Ooh, that's a long table. Okay, so we're going to say our area is equal to length times the width. So if we know the area, which is 21, that's going to be something times 3. So we can either guess what times 3 is 21, or we can use what we've done before. We can divide by 3 and divide by 3. And 21 divided by 3 is going to give us our length. 7. 7 times 3 is 21. Okay. All right, last one here. Carpet. Carpet costs $1.50 per square foot. You need to buy carpet for a room that is 12.5 feet wide and 10 feet long. How much will you spend? That's a really good question, because you will run into that. You need to know if you can afford it, and if you're going to lay it down yourself, or you're going to have somebody else install it, because that's going to be an extra cost. So do you want to pay $1.50 per square foot, or do you want to pay something more or something less? So let's figure out what this is. So this is length times width, and we know we're going to do a 10 foot by 12.5 foot area. So let's see what that is. So when we're multiplying by 10, we just move our decimal spot one place over to the right. So it's actually going to be 125 square feet times $1.50 per square foot. So let's see what that is. 125 times $1.50. So we're looking at $187.50. And that's how much we're going to spend. Okay. So let's take a look at this next page then. And let's see here. We have 6, and I'm going to ask you guys to do 3. What I'm going to do is... Wow, these are a little more challenging. Okay, so these are applications, so I think we're just going to have to do a couple of them together, all right? Okay, so let's do 3 together now, and then we'll get together and do the other half later. All right, so we're going to find the area of this deck around the swimming pool, which means what we need to know is what's the area of this part here without the pool, okay? So first what we're going to do is we are going to figure out what our area is of this whole thing and what our area is of just the pool, because what we want to find is what the difference is. That's going to give us what is this area here. So area of the pool, maybe we'll do that first. I'm going to scoot this over so I can write. There we go. All right, so the area of the pool is length times width, and our pool area is 30 by 14. Okay. So we'll say 30 by 14. And that's 420. So our pool is 420 square feet. That's this part here. Okay. So now let's figure out the the other area is going to be like the whole space that the whole thing takes up, which is length times width, which according to this is 36 by 18. Okay, so let's see what that does. Okay, 648.